Welcome to R&R Resilience and Rebirth, where every voice and every story matters, because your story has the power to change someone else's life.
Hello, podcast lovers. Thank you so much for coming back. I'm your host, Jana, and today it's so wonderful. I have an amazing human being today here. Justin's team had reached out to me, and I'm so glad that they did, because when me and Justin had our private conversation before this recording, I loved hearing the story. And because I'm a sucker for good stories, and I really truly believe that every story and every voice matters. I think that this was a fantastic opportunity for Justin to be a guest on R&R. So first of all, Justin, thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful that you took the time today, and more grateful that you are, really ready to open up in your private story and sharing of what had happened. So thank you. Hi.
Yeah. Thanks, Jonna. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here, and I look forward to going through some of it for sure.
Yes, me too. I feel like when we first connected, we connected on so many things. I mean, first of all, we both are independent business owners. I think that was like the first thing where we're like, oh yeah, you go through that too. Oh yeah, me too. So that was kind of cool.
Yep.
But, when we went further into the story, what really fascinated me a lot is when you said to me, and it's really still, it gets me chills when you told me that you were abusing substance, like pills in this case, for you to figure life out. And I'm like, wait, what? Are we talking about the same person? Because, when we first talked, I would never, ever, ever think that someone of your caliber could even be, addicted to some substance, which really is fantastic for the story, because this is really what real life is, right? Yeah. That we only always see the facade of people, and we only see really what's happening when we meet them, but we have no idea what they're actually doing behind the scenes of even getting through the day. But, I would love it if you would take the floor and just, explain, re-explain kind of like where that part of you becoming addicted to pills, in your opinion today, being free and clear of all of that stronghold, where do you think that came from for you? Like, did that started a long time ago where kind of was a buildup, or was it more kind of like a thing of like, I'm finding myself in this really stressful thing and I don't know how to deal, or like, but please have the floor. And if you can, I would love to hear the story again.
Yeah, I can share. I'll share everything that comes to mind, and everything. I'm an open book. So if you have any questions, ask away. I will start by saying that I'm still figuring it out, and there's still things that I need to work on. And there's this common thread that I see running through the tapestry of my life, and that is this bit of a rebellious, like I've got to go against the grain sort of trait. And sometimes I'm grateful for that. Sometimes that's been very destructive. So I'll just preface the story with that. And that even today, right now, in this moment, I'm working on trying to make sure that the decisions that I make are truly the ones that I want to make. Because when I was a kid, Jonna, I like younger, teenager, those kind of years, I would do things opposite of what everybody else wanted me to do, even opposite of what I wanted to do, because everybody else wanted me to. And I didn't even want to do them. That was kind of this rebellious streak where I'm like, oh, you want me to do this? Well, then I'm going to go do that. And that's just so toxic and destructive. And that's how maybe being in a family of 9 contributed to that, 9 kids, maybe, I don't know. I don't want to get too Freudian and go too far back into the archives there, but there was a reason, and it gave me something, and it gave me a sense of independence, and it gave me an individuality, I guess, is what I was looking for to some degree. So there's that. But the story that you've mentioned and touched on really started when I was in early 20s. I was dating my wife, who's now my wife, which is a miracle that she's still my wife, to be completely honest. You'll see why. And we were dating, and we were having kind of a tough time, and we were thinking we're probably going to split apart. And then she found out she was pregnant, and so we thought we better try to figure some things out and see what's going on. We did. We worked through that. We decided we were going to get married and kind of fast track some of those things. And I knew that while we had a great time in our courtship, together, and we were kind of loose and carefree and had fun. And she's just a little bit older than me, but not much. So here we are, young 20s, and now she is pregnant and wants some stability, wants somebody to bring. So while she likes my free spirit and my entrepreneurial nature, even though I wasn't an entrepreneur at the time, but she knew that about me. But at the same time, as soon as this weight of, okay, this is real. Now we're gonna have a child. We're gonna have responsibilities. I want you to have a 401k. I want you to have retirement pensions. I want you to have health care. I want you to have, and all these things were like, oh, that's not me. Whoa, that's not me. Whoa, that's not me. She even went so far as to say that like I think you should be a dentist, because then you make a good amount of money. There's stability. You're working 4 days, maybe 5 days a week, 6-7 hours a day. Like that was just kind of like, she had some picture that a dentist with a 401k, that's going to be the great thing. So when this all unfolded, I was in college at the time, and I went back. I didn't go to college right at high school. I came back a little bit later, so I was a little bit older than some of the kids in college. So I was still just in the beginning couple of years of college when this chapter kind of came to be. And I was putting myself through college working in a sales job. And in this sales job, there's a lot of young guys, 80% men, young men, full of testosterone and a lack of maturity. And they made a lot of money because they were good salespeople. So with a lot of money came a lot of nice cars, drugs, women, like a lot of those kind of, just picture the stereotypical behavior of like a Wall Street kind of, Wolf of Wall Street sort of thing. So I was a part of that sales floor. That's how I was making a living. And it was great while I was in school, but then the pressures of marriage came. And then her desire for me to be stable kicked in. And she had this picture of what a marriage and a family should be to be proper. And there was none of those things. Like the 401k, I don't have one of those. I still don't have one of those. None of those things were boxes that I wanted to check. And so this was really a subconscious, unconscious thing. But what I recognized doing is with my sales job, I could bring in $100,000 to $150,000 a year. And this is 25 years ago. So that's really good money. And I could qualify for mortgages for really expensive houses. So we started in a condo, a townhome, and then we quickly went into another home, and then we got into a bigger home. And I only know this because hindsight is 2020. But I look back now and I can see what I was doing is I literally moved in next door to dentists. Okay. The funny part is I live next to a dentist now. I just put that together like 2 days ago. But I was providing the lifestyle that I thought subconsciously her picture of stability required.
Right.
But I was doing none of the things that she wanted me to do. So I started to kind of create this divergence almost, like I'm trying to provide these things and make this presentation of this. Look, life is stable. It's all good. Don't ask me to be a fucking dentist because I'm going back to school.
Right. Yeah,
I don't want those things.
You have, we
you got the house, I'll get your car, Right. So we'll do all those things. And it's not as though she ever said she wanted any of those things. That was me doing it to me. But there was this unconscious pressure coming from her to be the stable 401k having, carpooling with the neighbors to a job with a pension, Well, that started off okay, but then more and more of those pressures, because I wasn't really in alignment with who I was or what I wanted. I wanted to build things. I wanted to risk more. So I always started little side projects. I had little side hustles going on, and they never worked. Shocking, because I had to make the commission income because the mortgage was so big, because I bought houses I should not have bought. I mean, I was way overextending. And so it seemed on the surface that the marriage was okay because I was checking those boxes. But that's when the opportunity to do drugs, like everybody else on the sales floor was doing, I'm like, okay, I'll try one of those. Yeah, I'll take one of those. And then that grew, and that grew, and that grew. And over the next 2-3 years, like we now had our second child, and I'm in a full-fledged, I'm addicted to painkillers, to opiates. And I don't know if you know anything about that, but that's the worst thing to get. I mean, physiologically, psychologically, like it screws with your brain chemistry, your body chemistry, all of your dopamine receptors, and like it's a mess. I tried again and again to get off of them, seeing that Now I have a baby. I have a 2.5, 3-year-old kid. I've got a newborn, and I'm just seeing this is not going the way it should go, and my life just started to kind of crumble. And so that's the beginning of the story that you've talked about, that we've spoken about, that you were just introduced. Yeah. So questions on that so far?
Yeah, so first of all, when you were speaking, I felt like the need of really feeling in my body of like, if we were just understanding who we were back then, so clearly who we are today, none of this could have even went down. And then also if we would have just been settled and rooted in just really standing strong in self of understanding, this is really not what I want to do. Yeah. Like just that open, transparent conversation sometimes that we really fear or threat so much. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be with a spouse, but it could also just be with a coworker, with your son, with your daughter, with your brother, with your friend, with whoever. I think that's really the two key points here, that if we were to know how to master those to begin with, and if we can teach younger generations of really standing strong in self and just kindly, respectfully voicing of, look, you wanting, and I'm using your example, you want me to be in a box that I don't feel comfortable being in. Now I can compromise with you by providing a stable lifestyle, but I cannot compromise being something or someone that I'm not capable of doing or being simply because it doesn't resonate with my soul journey. Sure. And I think, the escaping part of like, let me just go and get relief, because now obviously from you taking, let me try one of those to I'm fully addicted, obviously is a bridge gap of at least, I'll say, between 6 months and 3 years, where we now look back and now all of a sudden it's like, it's not even, I'm just going to try one. Now it's, I need 4 to be okay, to just manage my life.
Just to be normal. Just to feel like I was close to normal.
And now looking back, since you are the one going through that journey, is it safe to say, Justin, that if you were just, because I want to assume that you already knew inside of you that this is not something or someone or the route you want to go down, but is it safe to say that if you would have just found the courage in that time, at the age that you were in that moment, to just simply say, this is not something I can do. And if that upsets you, I'm sorry. If that means it's a deal breaker for you, I'm sorry too. But this isn't something I'm going to sacrifice because this is not something I want. So I guess my question to you is, because you mentioned you were young, is that something in general that we learn when we only get older to stand so strong in self? Or is it that we are not standing strong in self because we just don't know how, because it's frightening to speak up and to say no thank you to that. Like, I'm wondering always, does this always have to do something with age and the maturity in your brain chemicals, like, or is it just really
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I talk to my 17-year-old kid about this all the time, and I mean, okay, couple of things. Let me unpack that a little bit. First of all, to have the courage to have that conversation with my then fairly new bride would have taken a lot. And I don't even know that I had it in me at that time. Like, I didn't have the knowledge or awareness. So you got to back it up even before that. If I could have had the courage to even say it out loud, maybe not even the courage, maybe the awareness or the know-how to even to bring those thoughts that you're. And that's what it really comes back to, is some kind of a vision, John. Like, do you know what the hell you want? And I bet you that if we ask anybody listening out here, I bet we get 80, 90% of people that'll give us answers like, I just want it to be better. I want to lose some weight. I just want to be financially free. But if I were to try to press them on how much is that going to take to get there? How many pounds do you need to get rid of to get there? What percentage of body fat do you want to be to really feel good about yourself? What are those? I'll bet you that I'm going to get blank stumps.
I haven't thought of that.
Yeah,
I haven't
exactly.
thought of that. Yeah.
And that I think is what the big, if there's a systemic problem, I think it's that. I think it's a lack of vision. Now, I had the good fortune, and it was God's grace that put me there, to get into a rehab facility. And I'll tell you the rest of the story that kind of got to that point. But in that facility is where I began to learn a bunch of different frameworks. And I think everybody should go to rehab. Like, it should be a requirement to be alive. If you're over 20 years old, you should go to rehab for a while. Because we all got it. We've got something we're dealing with. We got something we're suppressing, something we're masking, something we're... But one of the things that I learned there, well, again, many, many frameworks, but one of them was to start to bring clarity to what it was that I wanted. And that's where I began to gain the skills and a whole bunch of supporting skills around how to clarify that with my mouth to other people, how to do other things in the world that I could share that light that was inside of me that made me who I am. But first I had to figure out what the hell it was. And so one of those frameworks in getting clear is people just, it's work. They feel like, so it's easy to say like, I want to be in better shape. Okay, how do you measure that? How do you know if you're successful doing that? What do you know if you succeeded or not? So if your brain thinks that way, because your brain is looking for closure all the time. It always wants to know how. So if you just want to lose a little weight, you lose a pound, it's like, did it. And then you go eat cheesecake again and again and again, right? You know what I mean? That's what we do. And then we're like, damn, I'm just like a yo-yo. I'm up and down with my weight. No shit. I wonder why. These things, it sounds silly to say out loud like this, but what the real issue is that you don't have a clear idea. There's no
roadmap.
One of my coaches said this. Yeah, one of my coaches told me this in a way that I really love that just came to mind. He's like, you need to be able to describe your future as clear as you can describe your present. Like, you need a future in high def, 4K, turn that shit up, get real clear and crisp. And I was like, damn, that's cool. Okay, that's very cool. So I don't know if you think that's actually the case, that like if you agree, I'm wondering, I have a framework that I use that it came all the way from rehab days, and it's been refined because I've worked with a lot of really cool coaches and people over the years. I've had tremendous opportunities, but I have a Google Doc that I use it every year. I help all the clients that I coach. We start here with this, and it's a couple pages. And it just helps to take this ambiguous, I want to be better, I want to lose weight, I want to be financially free, and it helps you to go through a refining process. It's called a vision clarifying roadmap. And if you think that would be helpful for anybody out there, I'm happy to share that, like with any listeners that just wants to. In fact, come over to Instagram and just DM me, Vision, and I'll send you the link to the Google Doc. So I'm at It's Justin Lund. Just come over, hit follow, give me a follow, and I'm happy to share that.
Yeah, I think it'd be really helpful for sure, and we can put it in the show notes 1,000%. Cool. But I think it's number one that it's like having the roadmap in general and having the vision, but also having the wisdom to knowing of how to really execute certain things. And I think sometimes that's where we get stuck, because either we have the opinion of I don't need help, or no, I don't need to go to therapy. I don't need rehab. I'm not addicted. I'm not a workaholic. I'm not all these things. Yeah. Even though my movements in my daily life, they clearly show that I am. And people in my life tell me, but no, I'm not that. And then even reaching out and going the extra step, even trying to be like, I want to better myself. And I know, but I just don't know where to start. And it's really embarrassing also to really admit to self first of like, this is really where I'm so screwed up. I want to get better, but I don't know how. And so when you said, not having the vision, I can understand that, because it is really hard. Because when you really ask somebody, what is it that you want? If I could make 3 wishes happen right now for you, tell me clearly, what is it really that you want in your own life? And most of the time, most of us never even take the time to actually sit down and really think about how would I want my life to be. And I feel like that's where good visualization / manifestation can really come in and help. Because if you're not clear on really what it is that you want in your life, even though your reality doesn't speak that to you. Like, I remember when I was going through my major spiritual transformation, I always envisioned, and I don't know why I did that. It was one of many visions, envisioning that I would open my door and whoever was standing in front of me saw me laughing. So I saw a mirror in that person's face, seeing myself laughing, being happy, just being so in eternal peace. And I would hold that vision every day. I would just close my eyes and I just do that. And for some reason, I felt better in that moment, even though, trust me, in that moment, my reality, I had nothing to laugh about, in all honesty. There was nothing funny. There was nothing amusing. There was nothing to even look forward to, because every day looked exactly as dark as the day before.
Yeah.
Right. And I think when we're finding ourselves in those kind of positions of not only now having pressure from outside, and it could be people, place, being, situation, circumstances, but also from the inside of like, I don't want this, but I don't know how the hell to get out of it, because now I'm finding myself, I'm addicted to drugs, porn, alcohol, whatever it might be. And I know it doesn't do me good, but it became such a norm of my life that how do I find the breaking point of breaking the cycle? And I think your story of you breaking the cycle was so fascinating to me, because I remember that you shared that you went into business with a friend of yours, business partner, friend slash, and it went great. And I would love for you to kind of like, in a sense, share that part, because that was so fascinating about your story for me, where it's like, wow, you relied so much on somebody else's skill to then only find out that the skill that you relied on so much was lingering and waiting inside of you to like get inflamed so you can actually own the gift yourself. But I would love for you to touch on that too, because I think that was such a pivotal moment in that time of your life where it's like, oh my God, this is something I never ever wanted to do, because I didn't even think I'm capable of doing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So let me connect the dots a little bit, and then I'll get right into that. So I have the drug issues. I go into rehab. In the rehab facility, I spent 6 weeks there, and essentially it's kind of like lockdown. There's not, after 4 weeks, I got the privilege to use the phone, call home. I got to go home for a Saturday night, Sunday, I was back. And on 5 weeks, and then on 6 weeks, I was able to get out and leave. It was amazing, great. But it was, and I knew that I was done with drugs probably a weekend. I mean, I wanted to be done a long time ago, but I knew that this was the path, and I started to get that confidence. Part of the success came from the tools and the frameworks there in making this transition plan, how to go from this life to this life. And that's why I start with vision. That's why in rehab, they start with a vision. Like, what is it that you want? Okay, now let's plan for that. Okay, but here's the key. Well, the Tony Robbins and all the other books that I had read up to that point, because I read all that stuff. I was familiar with everything. I loved the self-help stuff. But what it missed that I learned in rehab is to create a plan for the worst day too. So it really got in, Jana, to those things that you're talking about now. I got to learn who I am, and I got to have the balls to tell my wife, my family, I've got to communicate that, and I have to be ready for them to shit all over me as a result, because it's not going to be good, right? And that was the key, that especially when I get into week 5 and week 6, and I'm feeling like, man, I've got this thing beat now. I'm feeling the momentum. They're like, hang on a minute. The rest of the world out there, the last time they saw you, you were coming out of jail in an orange jumpsuit, pal. So don't think they're going to be celebrating you. It's like, oh yeah, man, that felt like an eternity ago. But it was only a month and a half ago. So they gave me those skills and tools to actually know that I'm going to get piled on. I've abused people in my life for the last 3 years. So it's going to take maybe about 3 years of them kind of feeling like,
control.
Yeah. Okay. So I was ready for that. And thank goodness, because it was hard. And without having that element of those skills there, I would have been back in there. I'd probably be dead by now for sure. That's the reality. But I did have those skills. So when I came out and I was able to communicate my vision, like there were tough times where that old pressure showed up, and it's kind of like your line as my sense of self. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't be what you want me to be. And that's it. I mean, it didn't come out in those words necessarily, but that's what I was saying. And I knew that I stood there and I had tools to work through that yucky, difficult process. And it was hard. It was not an easy thing to do, but I knew compromising this, and I'm fucked. It's trouble. I cannot do that, because I'll go down that road, and that road leads to those things, and those things lead to just a loss of everything. So I'll risk this as opposed to knowing that. And so that was more of my default. Now I got a rehab, and it was not rosy. I was sleeping on my mom's floor. Well, I had a wife and 2 kids. Okay. We're literally sleeping on blankets on the floor in a tiny little house. And that was our reality for a while. And I knew that I had to start working on building a business. And I knew that one of the triggers and one of the things that I was doing is, it felt safe to keep all these things going, right? Like the addiction, that gave me a sense of security. All these little side projects that never worked, that gave me a sense of security because I always could blame somebody else. But what I'd never done, Jana, what I never had done up to that point in my life is actually got clear on what I wanted and had the guts to go all in on one thing. And when I left rehab, I'm like, this is it. I'm going all in. I'm going to do it. And I sat in the garage of my mom's house while my wife literally wanted to kill me at times. I mean, we had nothing, $0. We had lost the house, the cars, the everything. And she's working at Walmart as a bagger for $7 or $8 an hour. And I'm saying, I'm going to build this business and I don't know how long it's going to take to make money. And that's the reality that I lived in for a year. And it was not good.
And she did too.
Yes, for sure. And she shared with me since, like, there's been times in those moments when she would just feel rage come up as she had to go to work and I wouldn't work. I'm working on some business that's a pipe dream. But as I stayed true to myself, which was so hard in some of those moments, thank goodness I had some tools, that things started to work and income started to come in. The business, I started to learn more about the business, and it was all on me. I didn't have partners. I didn't have anything like that. So a little bit of nuance there, but it started to grow because you'd mentioned the partner thing, and I did start a business, and later I brought a partner in, but it was because of the growth. So after about a year of struggling, I think we were on my mom's floor for around 7 or 8 months. And at that point, I knew that there was, like, we were reaching this point where I had to get out of there. I knew that the marriage was going to just fall apart. It was just too tough to be in that situation. Although the business looked promising, there still wasn't enough money. So we went looking for apartments and things. I'm like, I can't afford these apartments. So I found another way. And I went out and I found a who that could help me get the what that I needed. And that became a transformational principle that I still use today. I told my team this last week, like, replace how with who. So when you're sitting there struggling through, like, I'm not sure how to do this. I don't know how to this, this. Our brain loves to jump to how because we are logical creatures. We like that certainty. And often that's where we get stuck. We stop. We don't know how, right? You're sitting there in the dark and you don't know how to make the change. You don't know how to get the light. So what did you do? You had some good visualizations. Well done. That's awesome. So you can bring that emotion back in. But now you start looking at who else is out there? Who's done this before? Who's been in a shitty place like this and gotten out of a shitty place like this? And if you could start seeing what they did to go from A to B, well, if it's been done before, I can do it again, right? I'm just as much a human as anybody else is a human. And if they did it, I could do it. So I can just follow their pattern. And maybe I could even do it faster. So that was kind of some of my mantras. I was looking for who could do it, who could help me, who could open doors. The business started to take off. We got a better living arrangement. We got into a house that somebody was a real estate investor and was speculating. They're like, yeah, could you just keep an eye on it while I put it up for sale? Awesome. Yeah, I can live rent free. No problem. So we moved into this nice house and things started to take off. The business, just after a year, we were at a 7-figure income, gross income level. And I was like, whoa, we're doing over $1 million. Like, this is unbelievable. And it was just me. And then it kept going for the next 7 or 8 months. And I could see 8 figures like on the horizon, like not that year, but probably the year following based on how it was going. I'm like, oh, and that's what scared me. That's when my limiting belief started to kick in. So up to that point, I was dedicated. I was focused. I'm going to be me. I'm going to do my thing, but then I started to see this level of success that I hadn't even dreamed of 2 years prior. I get to surpass that a lot. And so now I was like, holy shit, what am I going to do? I got tax problems to deal with. I'm going to have these kind of problems and that kind of problem. And that's when I opened the door to a partnership that was, again, there's all these areas that scared me. Was I knew in order to grow, I needed to bring people and employees in to help me because I was burning the candle at every end and in the middle. And I just couldn't keep doing that. had my third child, was on the way at this point. And so my family's growing, our marriage is getting better. And I'm like, oh man, what do I do? So I turned to somebody who had all the skills, legal skills, accounting skill, like everything that made me scared. They're like, dude, sweet. I had an idea for 2 new businesses that were kind of in line with the first business that I had grown to a level of success. I said, I will partner with you on these if you help me with these areas. Your job is to bring in this legal expertise, accounting expertise. And let me do my thing over here because I know how to make it rain. And they were like,
yeah, we're just splitting responsibilities. Like we're making a laundry list of like, this is your part, this is my part, but we're doing it together and we're blowing up.
Yeah, and I built this wall in between like these areas, like anything on this side of the wall that had like numbers, legal, payroll, all that stuff. Like, that's you. I'm not even think about it. I'm gonna go over there and then, well, over the next 5 years, the company grew. We got to 8 figures. The next year, and then we were looking at 2 years later. We were approaching 9 figures of revenue. And I was just thinking, this is amazing. Like 4 or 5 years ago, I was in rehab and then sleeping on my mom's floor. Now we're doing almost $100 million a year. We've got 98 employees. And, and I was in my lane doing my thing. But then some challenges with the economy. The banks started to collapse and get taken over by the FDIC in 2010. And that started to create like these weird anomalies that I was looking at that really started to make some connections line up from years before. But the crux, the punchline is there were tens of millions of dollars that were being moved off the balance sheet, out of the bank accounts. And this partnership was continually encouraging me, stay out there and do your thing. We got this. We're taking care of this. Oh, you're crushing it. Making me feel really good about what I was doing. And it's just making my wall, despite the warnings, despite even other people saying, isn't that kind of weird that they're always doing this and this? And I'm like, no, it's fine. It's good. Everything's cool.
That's what set up. That's what we agreed on. Yeah.
So after the cat came out of the bag, so to speak, and I realized what was going on, it created a tax problem for me because there were falsified tax returns filed under my name. So I had to correct that or risk potential jail time if there was investigations into it because there was millions of dollars of taxes not paid. So I had another choice to make: either hope that nobody ever looked, or refile taxes, even though I had no money because the money is all gone. And at that point, I decided I had to do what I had to do because now my 4th child is on the way. And it's like, man, I can't risk, like, I need to be here for my family. That's the most important thing. And even if I'm a poor father with no money, at least I'm here being a father. So I got to do the work. And I spent the next 4.5 years fighting these people in court and redoing my fighting with the IRS, going through all kinds of things where, and this is the irony that I shared with you before, everything that I did every single day for those 4.5, everything, every day for 4.5 years was look at financial reports, look at spreadsheets, look at all the accounting emails and read everything in granular
stuff
detail.
That was not fun to look at while you're actually in the partnership. You're like, I got you and you got me and it's fine and I don't need to learn and whatever.
Before we continue, I wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you for your trust. These conversations can really exist because people are willing to openly listen and hold space for real conversations. If this episode resonates with you, the best way to support the podcast is to follow or subscribe so that these stories can keep reaching the people who really need to hear them. This podcast began with my story, but it continues by making space for yours. Your voice and your story matters. Now, let's get back to it.
Yeah. So I feel like, kind of got a PhD in some of these areas that before I was unwilling to look at. And I was just like, no, it's fine. Everything's good. And now I was forced to do only that for 4.5 years. And I made it through that lawsuit, got everything taken care of, and was able to get all these millions of dollars of taxes paid back, and settled and took care of all those things. And the cool part about it, and this is why you liked the story, I think, Jana, because in the middle of all that, a friend of mine called and said, could you help me set up a company? And I need help with payroll. How do you do that? And I was like, yeah, I'll help you with that because I don't want somebody to screw you. So let me help. And we did that for her. And it was only one employee plus her. And it was just a little bit, setting up an LLC. It was nothing. It was no big deal. But to her, it was a big deal because this is like me. She had those walls, right? She didn't want to look at those things. And she just wanted to build stuff and create stuff. And that's what business owners often are. They're artists. They're more of that brain, that side of the brain. They're not like, let's see how many logistics and dashboards and systems we can build. Nah, that's not, that usually comes later by requirement, like forced on them. So right. I liked helping her. It worked so well for her. She told 4 or 5 or 6 of her friends who called, and then we were doing it for them. And within 1 year, while I'm in the middle of this lawsuit, we've got about 50 plus clients that we're doing accounting, bookkeeping, advising. And I'm like, what the hell? I run an accounting business? And I don't even I hate the accounting. I don't even like anything about it. But what was cool is, and again, I don't like it. Still, to this day, I don't like it. Like, you're not going to see me hanging out in spreadsheets just to have a party, right? I don't do that for fun. But what I loved to do is to help her realize that she doesn't need to run away from a spreadsheet. She doesn't need to build a wall about these things. She can hire good people to take care of things for her, but she can inspect what she's expecting them to do, and then she can build simple systems that make a big impact in her business, that give her visibility into those details, and make accountants speak to her in a way that helps her. And then that turned into 10 more people, and then that was 20 more people, and then that was 50 more people. And again, I had the team taking care of all the books and doing all the accounting and all the administrative stuff, but I got to coach the owners on how to get out of their head and just do, here's a simple idea. So a lot of people, they don't even know where to begin, and I'm all about simple. I did a little master class earlier this morning with some accountants, and I'm like, guys, I'm not that smart. I have to make simple systems so that they work for a knucklehead like me. Obviously, I'm not a genius. I have these accountants talking to me, and they're way more polished. And I'm like, yeah, I don't even know half of what they just said, but here's what I do. Like my 1.0 system, call your accountant once every quarter. So literally make it a forcing function because you're not going to want to. I know you. But today, call your accountant and schedule 4 appointments over the next 365 days. Okay, put them on the calendar, send the calendar invite. So they agree to it, you agree to it, it chimes in. Now you have these things over the next year. Then never delay that. Like, you have to take the call. And then what will happen is you just have this space. You've created a container now that you can work through some number stuff. And as a result of that container, you'll get better. So I use this strategy still today. One of my favorite examples that illustrates the power of simple, basic systems like this is one of my meetings. My fourth quarter meeting is usually in November. I like to time it right around Thanksgiving, a little before, so that the tax season is behind my account. I noticed that if you do it close to tax season, they're kind of stressed out.
Yeah, right? You're stressed out.
Yeah. They're stressed out. I have different ideas. But in November, I call and I'm like, Paul, you're not going to believe this. The one day my wife drives the kids to school, we're literally tomorrow turning in our lease on an expedition, like a $90,000 SUV. We had it for 2 years. And we're supposed to turn it in tomorrow. And she slides off the road because there was this much snow. It was the first snow of the year and just a little dusting, but it made the road slippery, and she slipped off and hit a mailbox. She's fine. Everybody's cool. But it did $18,000 of damage on the car that we're turning in tomorrow. And I'm lamenting the story, right? I'm going like, oh, Paul, I can't believe it, dude. I'm just like venting. And he goes, wait, is that the one that you leased through this company? That company's? And I'm like, yeah, that's the one. Can you believe it? He's like, are you going to be? And he's seeing it through his filter, right? Because he's a CPA and he's as boring as you can imagine. Like, he's just, kind of dry and stale, like most accountants are. Sorry. That's just usually the way they are. And he's like, wait, are you going to buy a new car? I'm like, I don't know. Like, at some point, he's like, okay, here's what we get. Can you do it before the end of the year? Like, I guess. Like, and I'm like, oh, I started to realize he's up to something. What's he up to? And then he chimes off and he's like, accelerated depreciation is going to go away this year. And if you do it right now, you can do 100% of the vehicles. You got to get a vehicle, but you got to take delivery by the end of the year. And he's talking this fast. He sounds like an auctioneer and he's going. I'm like, Paul, wait. I think what you just said is go buy a truck and make sure it is over a half ton and just like, I got to have it today. He's like, yes. And I'm like, okay. What that did for me was dropped my taxable income by $60,000 that year. It totally eradicated a bunch of income tax. It dropped my marginal rate on a whole set of other income tax. Probably saved me of real dollars like 50 grand. $50,000 because I had a phone call with him and was bitching about the fact that we slid off the road right before we were going to turn in a lease.
And I feel like those kind of examples are really like the key points here, that sometimes we as regular people that work a 9-to-5 job, or we are doing other things, we don't really know, or even if we go into business for ourselves, so many people really don't know what really is there to actually benefit from if you were to happen your own business owner, which doesn't necessarily mean that you have to give up your security net of your full-time or part-time job. It just means that, you need to rethink some avenues. And I feel like sometimes these kind of ideas that we don't know, because, the law changes. Everything changes so often, especially when you're like in the world of real estate, for instance, like, you really need to be on top of all the laws. Same if you're a CPA, like every time there's so many new things. You go to workshops and all that. And we as regular people, we don't do that. So we think, oh, this is how it always has been done. And we don't know that, oh, no, wait, this came into the boat and that was taken out of the boat. And now this is an opportunity and this is an option. And so I think in general, mentorship in general, in every aspect of life, let it be for your taxes, for your mental, for your spirituality, for your physicality, for like whatever it might be, I think is so valuable to have. Like me personally, I have 5 mentors in my life and they're all focusing on different aspects of my life. But to just mentorship with somebody and just be under somebody's wing, especially in parts that you haven't mastered quite yet, I think it's so much valuable, because also I don't need to worry about that because I know it's been taken care of. And I know that so many people are probably saying right now, well, look, that's what Justin said, I'm going to be taken care of. And look, he got screwed by his partner. And I get that. But so towards that, because I'm pretty sure there's maybe one person out there that is thinking, what would be your advice right now as a certified financial mentor, if I can call you like that, and also being broke through that part of where you got screwed over? As an own business owner, what would be your one advice that if somebody is currently in this position, I'm running my own business, I'm making money, I'm making dough, but I'm partnering and I don't have anything to do with the financial aspect because I'm focusing on here? And not to put scarcity out there, but what will be the one advice that you would today know to look for that you did not look there? And not like 10, but maybe the 3 things of like, always have an eye out for this, at least. If you're not in control of the whole laundry list, at least contribute in the laundry with the pearls of this. What would that be?
Absolutely. It's a great question. And I think that can help provide some great value too. That the first thing would be to have a system of some kind. And I just gave you mine. I mean, that literally, Žana, I'm not that smart, which is why I make these checklists basic and simple. And I don't even leave it up to me to be aware or know about them. That's why I gave you the ingredients of that first step. Like, so the answer to your question is the story I just told you. Literally call your accountant today. If you're the one that Žana just described, call your accountant. If your accountant is the same one for your business partner and it's doing the business books, get a new one. Get your own. Okay. If you don't know how, let me know. I can help you out. I've got a playbook on how to find the right professional for you.
So just to clarify, Justin, if I'm in partnership with somebody, in your opinion, like let's say, we're running the business together, we're invested the same amount, I still have my own person.
Absolutely.
And you have your own person.
100,000%.
Well, that's already great advice right there. I did not know that. So thank you. I just learned something.
what you'll need, like if you have a partnership, then typically the LLC or the S corporation is going to be set up and it's its own entity. That operating entity needs somebody to manage and administer the books, and then it will make distributions or pay payroll out of that entity to you personally or to another entity you own, or however you have your structure. But as soon as it leaves this bubble where you have a shared interest and comes over here, then you have somebody else that can look at that. And there should be like full visibility into this. And if somebody doesn't want to give you full visibility, red flag. Okay. What's going on? So just dig a little deeper. But if you have somebody else that's just involved and you set up that quarterly call that I just mentioned, I mean, you will see like what happened to me would not have happened to me. It's that simple. If I would have just had a CPA, an accountant, an advisor, independent of the whole business empire that I was building and running at the time, they would have said, what the hell's this? And I would have been forced to answer questions
that you didn't know, which means you would need to go back and get answers.
Correct. And I probably would have, I mean, to be completely honest, I mean, I made it so easy for them to steal because I never asked questions. You know what I mean? Like, I emboldened and empowered them. Like, even if I would have had, I don't know that they wouldn't have stolen because it was very complicated. Like, as we unwound that whole, there was 225 different shell corporations that they had set up to siphon money off of. 3,000 here, 2,000 there, 7,000 there. Like, and all these different names, like we had to uncover and try to chase with forensic accounting that was bananas. It blew my mind. I may have still tried that, but if I would have had my own, if I had a different independent person that I could have gone to and said, hey, here's all the distributions and here's the financials for the quarter, they would have said, what is this? Why did this get bigger? Why did that shrink? Why did that go away? Right. They would have looked at it through the same lens that Paul looked through my tax, like my story about the car. I was just telling him about how crazy I thought it was. Like, can you believe the odds? The day before we turn in a lease, he didn't care about the day. He cared about the tax year because what does he see things through? A filter of a certified public accountant. And that's exactly why I love him. Not because of his great personality, but because of his ability to see the details and say, whoa, wait, stop, you need to do this, right? Yeah. There's a girl that works for me. I could sit down and talk to her, and I have done this. Like, hey, we need to plan like a company barbecue. I want to do something for the summer and just kind of have some fun. And she's like, okay, hang on. She opens Microsoft Excel. Immediately, I'm like, what's wrong with you? I'm talking about a barbecue and a pool party. She's like, yeah, we got to get the details all here. God bless them, right? I'm never going to do that. But because that's how she sees the world. So back to your question. What do you do if you're in this partnership? You have an independent person. And you set up my version 1.0 safeguard. It will keep you safe. It will lower your taxes 1,000% guaranteed. All you got to do is 4 calls with a CPA a year. Have your own independent from the partnership. Key. That is key. Don't say, well, he's doing the same thing he already knows. Like, no. Separated, different. And then that's your starting point. Now, overarching all of that, the umbrella or blanket that I would say is like your overarching principle is don't be afraid to try to learn a little more. And the yin to that yang is your goal is not to become a damn master's accountant. Okay, you're not getting a master's degree in accounting. Your goal is simply to learn this much this year, all year long. You're going to learn a couple new things. If you don't know what accelerated depreciation means, because I sure didn't know until he told me in that phone call, then maybe that could be one of those things you learn. Okay, so that's like, right? I'm not, that was the thing, Žana, when I had this wall, and now that I have a little bit of hindsight and some help working through some of my own mental models and issues, I recognize that looking at finances actually challenged my certainty as an individual, right? Because I like to be confident. I like to be a leader. I had 100 employees. I had a wife, had kids, had a household, whole 9 yards. If I start diving into this area that is so scary to me, that really shakes my foundation of certainty. Yeah. So rather than, which is the same damn thing I was doing with pain pills, right? So luckily I had the skills knowing that pain pills is not going to be the answer, but what I'd had is this massive avoidance mechanism going on where I just let that. There were so many people in my life that were like, Justin, don't you think it's weird that these guys are doing X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, no, everything's fine. And in hindsight, I should have seen it years in advance. But
I also think if it's fair to say, I think it's number one, that scarcity feeling internally of like, I just don't know. This seems so overwhelming to me. I don't know how to go about it. And therefore, I'm just simply avoiding it and just hire somebody or put somebody else in place. So I don't really need to relearn it. But I think the other part is also the unwillingness wanting to learn something that actually can benefit you because it's just not your cup of tea. Like if it would be something that you're interested in, hey, do you want to learn about a topic that you're like totally into? You'd be like, yeah, I want to learn about that. Matter of fact, let me go to a workshop because it sounds so interesting. Yeah, but because this isn't, you know what I'm saying? And so I think it's always a little bit of so many things, but that's why I love your advice of like, this is something that my thing is, because I always come from the hospitality industry, because, that's where I live, that's my business. And so, I always teach my owners and my GMs, it's like, listen, you cannot have the expectation to expect from your hostesses, your food runners, your busboys, your waiters, your bartenders. You cannot expect them to do something for you that you yourself don't know how to do. So for instance, if you're on the floor and shit hits the fan and two people call out and you are on the floor and you don't know how to work your own system to take even an order or put an order through the kitchen or mix a cocktail or describe a dish at a table, then I don't need you to bark orders because this is the stuff that you should be knowing to begin with. Because I feel like you're only a great teacher to people when you master the knowledge yourself first. Because if you don't, I feel like you're almost contradicting. It's almost like I'm expecting something from you to do that I clearly have no clue about. And is it true of I can just hire and pay you to do things? Yes. But when it comes to your own building empire process, I feel like, don't you want to know? Like, don't you want to know not to be controlling, but to be in control? Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I feel like being micromanaging and controlling and being in control are two different things in my world. Because if I know exactly what the process is, and from time to time I fly over your stuff, it's like, oh yeah, that looks good because I know what the process is. But if I would have no clue at all, stuff can get easily triggered into other things. And in Germany, they have a saying, they say, money and friendships don't really mix at all unless you have a clear contract that is signed by a notary, signed by both parties of like, this has nothing to do with our friendship. If stuff were to hit the fan, we're just going to go back to the original contract, you know? And so, but in general, I agree with that way because it gets such a fine line when we create businesses, even with our spouses, husband and wife, like, that can get tricky too, because now we're so involved with building and the aspect of money and the aspect of what's the word? Legality? Correct? Okay. And now we're also taking the stuff home when it's actually romantic time or when it's emotional time or when it's pillow time. But now we're talking about Lisa not doing things that she needed to do in the office because you didn't tell her. And you're like, well, you didn't tell her. And so here we are.
That brings, there's so many things that could bring up. Like, instead of focusing on what you're grateful for and having a moment of inspiration, it's more you're focused on what's going wrong and you're trying to it's bad because what you focus on is what expands, and those things expand. You're just kind of going down, and it's become the lowest common denominator, and then you're screwed. And all those things are clear. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad idea to be in business with your spouse or with a friend. I'm just saying, like you said at the beginning, if we have a clear vision of how that looks like, right? And now we're taking that vision and we're implementing possibly in a needed contract or in a needed conversation or in like something that will back up that vision that we both had when we were clear-headed. When everything was cool, this was our vision, this was our idea. Now let's put that on paper and then let's execute what the paper says, basically, where it's like, you do this, you're responsible for, doing A, B, and C, and I'll do the rest. But all of that is documented somewhere that if stuff were to hit the fan, even between husband and wife, like we can make like a loft contract of like, look, when we're going into business, babe, this is what we're trying to avoid. And so you write it down, I write it down, and stuff hits the fan, we'll have dinner and then we'll talk about the contract. Right. Where it's like, these open, transparent conversations that are actually, when it comes to business, also being backed by really contracts that do make sense. Yeah. And so Yeah, I feel like sometimes we forget to do those things because we're so euphoric and so
Familiar.
enthusiastic and so
Yeah. Yeah.
excited.
Yeah. And
Yeah, and
we're familiar with the other people, and it
right,
lends itself to that. And that can be very dangerous. I have a friend
right,
who is in business with his dad, and they have clear lines of delineation. And to them, it's based on what time of day it is. So after a certain time of day, and they'll even go have dinner. They have a forcing function to have dinner at least once a week together as father and son. And they
wow,
kind of
that's
have fun
cool.
with it because they'll say like, yeah, man, my partner, he's such an asshole. Oh man, my work is sometimes so stressful, and they can kind of get it out and be,
Right,
but then they're busy. But let me just tell you, like if you're going to go in business with your family, with your spouse, you're adding a level of complexity that,
right,
I mean, don't kid yourself. It's not going to be easier. You're making it
yeah,
harder than if
yeah,
you were to do it on your own. So there are
or
cases
with
that it
somebody else.
works. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. But just like go into that with your eyes wide open. And I
yeah,
think the vision part of it is clear. Like you do need to know what you want, and you need to have that vision clear. And I
yeah,
do think that can really solve a lot of problems and really help you kind of chart your course forward, whether it's with your spouse or anything else you're doing. Like just knowing the direction that you want to go, you can have a place to come back to. And yeah, I just want to kind of share, I guess, that after all my ups and downs and different things that I've done, now I get to work with business owners and I get to help coach them, and it's very fulfilling, and I love doing it. And
mm,
I've recognized that usually coaching people is very prohibitive with like meaning I'll only work with 6 or 8 clients in a year over the last several years, because I'm very one to one, and I realize that's great for them, but I also realize there's all these business owners out there that I see going to conferences and when there's 5,000 people, I'm like, oh, they're getting like I've heard stories of somebody getting screwed. So many times, there's so many things. Whether they're getting screwed on their taxes, they're getting screwed by a partner, they're getting, and it's just like, man, you're learning the
yeah,
lessons I learned. You're learning the same hard way that I did. And I just kind of feel really called and compelled that I need to share this. So I'm trying to push through some of my own comfort zones because I'm not a public person. I've been very, very private after all of this noise. I moved to the woods of Vermont and I was off the radar for 12 years raising my kids, just like a hermit with a big beard. I was in the woods.
yeah,
But I see the pain that people are going through. And so we've set a goal here just recently that over the next 12 months, we want to impact 50,000 business owners. And the only way we can reach that many people is coming on podcasts, is putting out content. So I've had to
mm,
overcome my fear of the camera and visibility because I'm hoping that part of this resonates somewhere with someone and they say, I am going to call my accountant. Or that behavior does seem a little bit weird. Or
yeah,
I'm going to
yeah,
pause before I just start doing all this activity, these actions. And
yeah,
I'm going to get clear on what the hell I actually want out of these actions first, then
yeah.
get in deep to it. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted to share
And
that.
that's why I always appreciate, and that's why I always appreciate when people really share their own true story first,
Yeah.
because this is really, I feel like, how we all relate to each other. Because your story, even though it was so traumatic for you to go through, I promise right now that story will inspire somebody else not wanting to do the same mistake, or at
Yeah.
least they heard something within the story where they're like, exactly what you said. Maybe I should check
Yep.
in on this, or maybe I should check in on that. And I want to add one more point when you said having a vision. I also feel like when you do have a clear vision of life that you want for yourself, and it could be in any aspect, the right job, the right partner, the right whatever
For
it might
sure.
be, I feel you also get then the opportunity when you have your vision written down on a piece of paper, in a sense, super old school. You can then think about consequences too. Okay, so now I have my vision, but what does that really in reality look like? What do I need to add to all of these bullet points that I haven't looked into yet?
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, I want to become an LLC. Okay, so what does that really mean, becoming an LLC? And I'm just throwing simple
Mm-hmm.
examples out there. But what does that mean? How do I do my taxes? What does that mean? Is there any extra money involved? Do I need a DBA? Like, what does this mean to become an LLC? Like, my dream is to be my independent owner, but do I do LLC? Do I do an S corp? Do I do a sole proprietorship? Like, what am I? Like, all those new terms and all those new things force you now, when you have a vision, to really then do further research of understanding this will be your consequence. Like, if you're going to be an LLC, it comes with protection, but it costs you extra money, this and this and this much a year. You don't know these things until you don't dive in to ideas of like really figuring out if your vision is, really, and if you cool with the consequences that possibly can come with it, because just saying, oh, I want this and this, that's great. But if there's no movement behind it, if there's no action behind it, then you're going to be in a year exactly where you were, just talking the same thing that you said a year ago.
And I would add, I like that. And I would encourage people hearing this to add, don't let all those hows, because our brain defaults to how, don't let all of that intimidate or paralyze you from actually taking that action. And the big unlock is replace who with how, or how with who, rather, the other way around. So as you get into this analysis paralysis and you feel yourself getting kind of stuck and stopped, just say, well, who would know this? And then go make a phone call. Because any accountant, any lawyer, any, like anybody will take an initial call, and you can just talk and be like, what do I do here and here and here? They might try to sell you something, and you can say, no, thanks, click, and you make another call. You can find another who. Like, maybe that was not your right who. Don't settle for the first who. Like, find somebody that really resonates. And those who's will really unlock the hows for you and can accelerate. Like you said, you have 5 mentors right now. Like, I probably have 4-ish, the same thing. Any area that I want to accelerate results in, I go out and find somebody that has already done it. And if I can do what they, why reinvent the wheel when they took all these years? And I'm a voracious reader. I love to read because for the time that I spend reading and the return I get on that time is, I can read somebody's book in a week, and that took them a lifetime to learn.
To write it.
And to
write it too.
To learn it and to write it, to reduce it to 250 pages or something. And I can read it in a week on the treadmill. Like, holy cow. Think of that. If I'm doing that week over week over week, I'm hitting like 30, 40, 50 books a year. That's 30 to 50 lifetimes I can bring into my year. And if I apply those things now, wow, leverage. That's huge, huge leverage.
Totally. And to the people, the person that says, I'm not a reader like me, Audible. I'm just
totally.
Just an idea. But it's also like, it's the if, right? But what if I fall? But babe, what if you fly? You know what I mean? Like, this is a whole nother thing where I feel like we're so stuck sometimes on the if. What if this goes wrong? And what if I fall? And what if I stumble? But what if you just simply don't? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if you actually are succeeding? Because it's the 50-50, like the coins look the same. It's the same material on top and on bottom, So in the sense, it's like you can look at it from this way, scarcity and if and I don't know how and all of that, which is all the if world, or you can just simply change it and be like, but what if I fly?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
so I've got to tell you this, that I went with one of my guys to a business show because it was this big expo hall with all these business owners coming to look at different exhibits and different things. And I wanted to go just to get kind of a pulse on, what are some of the business owners out there going through, like trying to figure out what are some of their best points. And we talked to all kinds, from people just incubating an idea to like one guy that I'm thinking of right now had exited like 9 companies or something. Like he was worth tons and tons of cash, and he just happened to be wandering around. We grabbed him and did a little quick interview with him, and we asked kind of the same questions, which is, what's the number one bit of advice that you'd give to business owners out there? And he unequivocally, very quickly said, don't be afraid of the word no. Learn to get rid of your fear of no. I said, okay, tell me what you mean. And he's like, I've built all these companies. I've exited so many of them, many for hundreds of millions of dollars. And you could tell by the way he was dressed and his watch and everything that he probably had a little cash in his pocket. And he's like, the number one principle that I operated all these companies on is to teach all humans in the company to not be afraid of the word no. Because if you overcome the fear of no, you'll just do. And when you do, you get a result. And that result allows you to pivot, learn, adjust, and grow. He's like, then the principle number 2 is empower every person in the company to run it as if it were their own company. I was like, wow, that's kind of bold, isn't it? Like, you want the lowest level employee? And he's like, absolutely, I do. 100% I do. And then he shared his compensation tips and tricks where, like, these people could be compensated on. He shared one that was pretty cool. He said, I once had an assistant who their rule was, if you save a certain amount of money by finding waste in a company, that we will pay you 50% of that savings over a year if it holds true for a year. So there was an assistant making $35,000 a year that he wrote out a check to for $120,000 who found a bunch of waste. And he's like, by doing those 3 things, you empower everyone to be swimming in the same direction. And you're able to really leverage everyone. And they overcome this fear of like, well, they might say no. I'm like, yeah, F that. Who cares? Like, get the no and then move to the next thing and the next thing. But if you're afraid of no and you don't take action, it's what you just said, Jana. It's like, well, what if I fail? I don't know. I might get a no. They might reject me. Like, if you can overcome that, figure out whatever it takes. And what you're getting by that, the wall that you build for protection is the wall that will keep you trapped, people. Like, you gotta dismantle the wall, bring the wall down. And then it feels a little weird, feels a little scary, but you'll see, like Jana said, you might fly. And it's when you start flying, you're like, wow, I was capable of this? Unbelievable.
And then the best sentence is, why have I not done this 1 year ago, 10 years ago? You know?
That always comes up. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Really. But I
Same
love
thing
the
with
example.
me in rehab. Like, as soon as I got into rehab, I was like, I can't believe I was so scared of this for so long. Like, I know, why wasn't I here 5 years ago? As soon as that silly thing raised its head, I should just come and checked in.
Totally. Because it's, but it's really like, it's self-holding back self, you know what I mean? Of whatever reason. And it might be just from your childhood. It might be a trauma that you endured. It might be just your own embedding your own self, not seeing your own worth, not being kind enough to yourself. All of that takes time, to build like self. They always talk about back in the days when they said self-care. I'm like, yeah, okay, what do you mean? I shower, I brush my teeth. What are you talking, And so, now I really do truly get it. Like now, after all this real deep transformation, I truly understand what it means to have self-respect, self-esteem, self-love, self-kindness to your own self, and putting yourself first, not in a selfish way, I don't care about others, but in a healthy boundary way of like, this is literally what I can do, and this is what I cannot, and here are my reasons. And it's okay if you can accept it, and it's so okay if you cannot, but I'm not going to waver. You know what I mean? And to just have the balls and the strength to just listen to self first. Like, how do I feel when I enter somewhere? How does this human make me feel partnering with them? How does this job make me feel? How do I feel instead of this robotic thing what has been since 30 years? So what? Guess what? You have the freedom to change your opinion.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You have the freedom to be like, no thanks.
I would say this too. Like, I keep this on my desk because I think everything has balance. You need balance in all things. And I love the idea of just being true to self and being empowered by self. But I would say that the yin to that yang is also demand that you continue to make yourself your best self. Like,
right.
Because if you do that, you're never going to get trapped in this cycle of self-centeredness. You're never gonna be like, well, I don't want to, so then fuck you. You're not gonna get into the toxic side of that. You will always just try to be your best self, and you're not gonna be perfect. But as you continue that upward ascent, with the grounding in being true to yourself, that's how you go 10.0 version of you, and that's the goal. Be the 10.0 version of you. That's what the world needs. That's why we're here to become it, and then to share it with everybody else.
That's it. But if you are okay with that, I would love to put all your info in the show notes,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
your website, your calendar link, like everything, how people can just simply go below the show notes and make one click and be right away connected with you.
Yeah,
I
I'd love
think
to. You
everybody
bet.
needs to have a Justin in their life, when it comes to their
Yeah,
finances.
we're trying to put a lot of content out. Instagram is where we put most of it. We're on TikTok and LinkedIn and everywhere else too. But I would love to have anybody come and check it out and let me know what you think.
Yeah.
Like, if you tell me if you like it, tell me if it sucks. Like, we're looking for feedback, and I do. I just want to try to share as much as I can. And
Yeah.
like I said, if that vision part of the thing is something that, like, I don't really feel clear on what I want. Like, I got a banger for you. It's a 2-page Google Doc that we use in here, and then, like,
I
you can
want
just
it.
have it. Okay, it's yours. Okay,
I need it. I want
okay,
it.
you got it. I'll send it over. Okay, Žana, this has been awesome.
Justin,
Thank you.
it was truly so nice to have this amazing conversation with you. I think you're an extraordinary human being. I'm glad that you had to go through what you went through, but it was only for your highest and best.
Yep.
And look at the outcome. You're such a cool, I feel like you can talk to anyone about anything, and it's just like with a little sugar on top. Let's just smile and make fun about it. We'll get through it. Like, what the hell kind of thing.
Yeah, good.
And I think we need humans like that. You know what I mean? I know we all run businesses.
That's so sweet of you.
But it's really that human connection that makes it so much more simpler and so much more in your ease of your mind of like, man, I know this person is cool, like this person got me or whatever, because you do have that. You can't fake that. You get me? Like, you can't fake that real connection. It's either you got it or you don't. And thank you for being one of those that keeps it real and being so authentic about your own stuff, and not being afraid as a strong man and male to sit here and speak on your downfalls, in a sense, from the past. I respect that a lot.
Well, thank you. And thank you for listening to Your Calling and having this podcast and have the balls to go out into the unknown and just do your thing. So I love it. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been awesome. Thanks, Žana.
Well, podcast lovers, another great one. And as you know, if there's anything you want to share, if you want to be part of R&R movement, if you have something to share that somebody else can benefit from, my red carpet is open for you. But until then, stay rooted, stay grounded, and always stay connected to love, the strongest force in the universe.